potential reach of 14.5 million and 7,000 direct views, demonstrating strong international traction. That visit got excellent coverage in Martha's Vineyard Times, She Knows, Forbes, Essence, MV Times, New York City influencer, actress, and radio voiceover and TV host Ravel Davis also covered. I should say that for those who are enamored with celebrities, that we had Damon Williams at the event, we had Lynn Whitfield, well-known black actress at the event, and we had the host of The View, Sonny Hostin, who was also at the event. And so we say thank you to them for coming. I wanted to just highlight a quick financial point about tourism to indicate, as I do month to month, that our collections from our tourism development levy for August runs to $311,951.24. That is an increase of 44.48% over the same period in 2024. I have said that the tourism industry has rebounded quite nicely, and what we are seeing is that it's going deeper into the season. These are numbers for the summer, so this speaks volumes in terms of what's happening on Nevis. I should also add that when we look at the totals thus far, up to August, we are already at the level that we earned for the entire year last year, bearing in mind that we are only 8 months into this year. And so that augurs again quite well for us. Let me continue to report. You have heard me, members of the press, talk repeatedly about film industry. And we started out with MSR Media, but we have not stopped. We have continued. And I'm very proud to report that an international full-length romance feature film is currently in production on Nevis. This initiative reflects the ongoing efforts to position Nevis as a premier destination for film production in the region, offering both scenic beauty and professional local capacity. Significantly, this project features the active participation of local talent, both on screen and behind the scenes. Local actors like Winston Crook and Kayla Malilu have secured speaking roles, contributing to the authentic representation of our culture and people. And in addition, the local crew includes Tishan Wilkin, Jamal Jean-Jacques, and Nyla Daniel. I believe Nyla is handling all the makeup and all of that, demonstrating the growing skills and involvement of Nevisians in the creative industries. The film prominently showcases various locations across Nevis, including our hotels, villas, natural landscapes, and coastal scenery, providing valuable international exposure and future tourism potential. So I want to just pause there, members of the press. I really do think that's headline worthy because we just completed the filming for an important television series, the Real Housewives of Potomac, and here we are now engaged in a movie, full-length movie feature that is being filmed. And the beautiful thing here, as has been indicated, we have Nevisians on screen and we have Nevisians behind the scenes. And I want to encourage our young people out there who are interested in film, who are interested in the creative industry. In Nevis, we're not just talking about it, we're actually delivering. And when I see youngsters like Nyla, who can take her talent for makeup and hair and all of that, and put it now into film. When I see Tishan Wilkin, who started out with MSR Media, Jamal Jean-Jacques, and these youngsters who are good with cameras and with editing, lighting. There's so many skill sets. I want to continue to encourage our people to get involved. A lot is happening here on the island of Nevis, and I'm quite proud that our film commission, recently officially launched, has had these early successes. As part of that success, I'm also pleased to say that Stone and Spirit, that was produced by Ed Annunziato and directed by Blair Stewart, has been selected for Carrie Festa's official film and video program. That is a testament to the documentary's cultural depth and storytelling power. The screening tonight in Barbados is 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. at the EBCCI Warner Walcott Theatre, and it places Nevisian church history on a regional stage, celebrating its legacy within the broader Caribbean narrative. Carrie Festa 25, or is it Carrie Festa 10, I'm sorry, known for showcasing the best, Carrie Festa 15, forgive me, known for showcasing the best of Caribbean arts and culture, offers an ideal platform for this kind of historical reflection. So here again, we have a film produced in Nevis that featured the churches of Nevis, Stone and Spirit, has been selected as a feature film at CARIFESTA in Barbados. On that note, let me take the time to congratulate the Honorable Eric Evelyn and the entire team who are currently at CARIFESTA in Barbados, representing us with aplomb. I'm very, very pleased to report that we have, the NIA has sent a contingent of 17 members. We have a 17-member delegation to participate in CARIFESTA 15. That's in addition to those from St. Kitts. The NIA has sent 17, and the festival, of course, takes place from August 22nd to 31st. The delegation includes 13 members of the Honeybee String Band, 1 Mokojumbi performer, 1 media personnel, Mr. Jerome Rollins, CEO of the Nevis Cultural Foundation, and the Honorable Eric Evelyn, who, I'm told, is also a member of the band. He's in the back on some kind of grater with a, scratching a grater, and he does quite a good job keeping time. And so the Honorable Eric Evelyn is not only Minister of Culture, he embodies the culture because he's there performing as well. So we have sent that delegation of 17, which, of course, is an addition to those sent by the federal government. But these 17 were at the expense of the Nevis Island Administration. Let me just say that the Ministry of Agriculture would have also accommodated 15 students in this year's Summer Job Attachment Program, and the participants were placed across the Departments of Agriculture and Marine Resources. Let me point out that all fishing vessel owners, this is quite important, all fishing vessel owners planning to travel outside of federal waters must obtain an overseas travel endorsement certificate from the Department of Marine Resources. Key points: 1, applications must be submitted at least 36 hours before departure. 2, all laws of the Federation and the destination country must be followed. 3, captains must ensure all safety equipment is on board. And 4, owner of the vessel's captain or owner may apply for that endorsement. We are in the hurricane season, and thank God that the first main storm of the season bypassed us. We are praying and hopeful that that will continue. But hurricane preparedness meetings are continuing. As you know, we take that very seriously. And under the leadership of the Honorable Spencer Brand and Mr. Brian Dyer, we have insisted that we stay in a state of advanced preparation. And so there will be a meeting on August 28th at the Nevis Disaster Management Conference Room, and all fishers are urged to attend. This is an effort to have our fisher folk attend such a meeting. I would also like to report that in the absence of the Honorable Eric Evelyn, I deputized for him as Minister of Agriculture in meeting with a delegation from Anguilla just yesterday. And that delegation comprised the Honorable Cordell Richardson, Parliamentary Secretary in Anguilla, Mr. William Vanterpool, Director of Natural Resources, Mr. Colin Fleming, Agronomist, Dr. Reginald Thomas, Chief Veterinary Officer, Mr. Javon Richardson, Farmer, and Ms. Melissa Mead, Principal Assistant Secretary. I was pleased that Anguilla has decided to pay a 2-day visit to Nevis. And the purpose of their visit is to learn from Nevis in terms of what Nevis is doing in agriculture. I keep saying to our people that whilst we at home sometimes criticize and complain, others outside Nevis are looking on and are looking with admiration at what the Nevis Island Administration is doing. And here we have a delegation from Anguilla comprising 6 individuals who have come to look at what Nevis is doing and to learn from Nevis. And so in my discussions with them, I focused, of course, on what we could possibly do together. Anguilla has a lot of fish, Anguilla has a lot of seafood, and the Nevis, of course, has a lot of produce, a lot of mangoes. And so we discussed the possibility of trade. And I found out something quite interesting. They say Anguilla now has monkeys as well. And so I admonished them to try and deal with that problem early before it gets out of control. I was very surprised to hear that Anguilla now has the monkeys as well. But that delegation is here, and I was quite pleased that it wasn't a short visit. They have staying for 2 days because they're looking at livestock, they're looking at our hydroponics and our shade house production, And they're looking at our abattoir, which yesterday I found out is producing 20 plus value-added items. Chicken, roast chicken, hams, ribs, you name it, they're producing it. Minced meat, patties, they're all being produced. 20 plus products are being produced at the abattoir in Nevis. I really do think that the Ministry of Agriculture needs to do a bit more in highlighting these facts, because I think a lot of us maybe don't even know. Maybe we are buying products in the supermarket not even realizing that they're coming locally. Forgive me. The University of the West Indies on September 3rd, in collaboration with AICA, will conduct a consultation on swine production here under the theme supporting the development of the porcine industry in St. Kitts and Nevis. Let me turn to Culturama. Some may ask, why is he talking about Culturama? Culturama 51 just finished. Well, Culturama 52 is in full swing already. My indication and the Cabinet's indication to Minister Evelyn as the Minister of Culture is that we have a full-time Culturama Secretariat. Let them get to work immediately. And they have done so. Preparations have begun for Culturama 52. That will be celebrated from July 23rd to August 4th, 2026. Slogan competition entries are now open for that competition. Slogans must be between 8 and 10 words and reflect the spirit of the festival. And the submission deadline is Friday, October 31st. You can email your slogans to slogan@culturamanevis.com or deliver it to the Culturama Secretariat. The winner will receive $500 cash, a plaque, and passes to all events. Senior and youth pageants registration is now open for Miss Culture Queen, Miss Culture Swimwear, Mr. Cool, and Mr. and Miss Talented Youth Pageant. I'm calling on all of our schools. The government has some 9 primary schools that they get ready, because we want to see all the schools represented on stage during Culturama. The registration deadline is November 28th for the pageants, and forms can be collected at the Culturama Secretariat or online at www.culturamanevis.com. Let me try and get through as quickly as I can, as I promised, just to indicate, members of the press, that the CXC, CSEC, and CAPE results are in. The preliminary results for 2025 May-June sitting of CSEC and CAPE were released on August 15th. We would want to extend congratulations to all of our students who sat and passed their subjects, and to say to those who were unsuccessful, please do not give up. Continue to make every effort. The ministry will shortly release highlights, and then you will hear more from the minister and Ministry of Education. Let me switch very quickly to Public Works. Just to advise that Public Works has completed phase 1 of the Morgan's Estate Brown Pasture Road. Civil works will commence next week on phase 2, and that will be the installation of the new water main prior to actual road construction. Work will continue with the mobilization works on a concrete culvert on the existing dirt road heading towards the Morgan's Estate Reservoir. I want to thank the people in that area for their patience. I drive there. I was there just last week to see for myself, as some had complained that the rest of the road was deteriorating, and I have promised that we will do all that we can in as speedy a time as we can to give them a first-rate road in that area. They have been very patient with us over the years. The Public Works has also completed civil and structural components of the Island Main Road rehabilitation and resurfacing in Pinnies, and as you may see if you're a motorist, that they're now marking the roads. On Saturday, 23rd August, they commenced a culvert rehabilitation project in Charlestown across the Island Main Road at the junction with Happy Hill Drive, and that is currently ongoing. And they continue to spearhead significant works at the supply office. The Nevis Water Department has been involved at Blue Crescent, Nisbet Hotel area. They've installed 1,500 feet of 2-inch PVC HDPE pipes to replace the old 2-inch mains that break frequently. At Cedar View, Madden's Estate, they've installed some 1,800 feet of 4-inch PVC mains to serve that community. And they've also installed 1,500 feet of 4-inch PVC mains to facilitate the continued road construction in Brown Pasture that I just mentioned. The department will soon announce some additional work that they're doing in terms of water. An important notice, maybe an unpleasant notice, but important. The Water Department has asked me to tell the public that they're carrying out disconnections in the coming weeks for customers who are in arrears for more than 3 months. You see what a long time customers are being given? 3 months. If you are in arrears for more than 3 months, then you will be disconnected. This includes customers who have payment plans but are not adhering to them. Customers, please are urged to ensure that their monthly payments are made promptly to avoid disconnection, and also you're reminded not to tamper with water meters when disconnected. Please, tampering with water meters draws hefty fines of between $1,800 if you tamper with it to $2,200, which is the cost of replacing it. So we are just encouraging our people to be responsible and do the right thing. Water is probably the cheapest commodity that we have on the island of Nevis. And sometimes I see people who come to me lamenting that they have a bill for $4,000 and $5,000. If you have a $5,000 water bill, you have not paid for over a year. That's the reality. And so I encourage our people, just please do the right thing. Pay your water bill. Water is life, and we need to be able to ensure that we can continue to provide water to all of the people of Nevis. I will leave that there and move on very quickly to the Ministry of Sport, Education, et al. Just to say that we are congratulating 13-year-old Skylar Connor. She represented St. Kitts Nevis at the 2025 World Aquatics Championship in Singapore. The championship was held on July 11th to August 3rd, and the highlight of her participation was a strong performance in the 50-meter freestyle, where she clocked 30.47 seconds, which was 0.06 seconds off the national record. Also at the Pan Am Games in Paraguay, congratulations to Jonathan Bardales, who represented St. Kitts and Nevis in the 2025 Junior Pan American Games in Paraguay. Jonathan competed in the 100-meter butterfly and 100-meter freestyle, two of the most competitive events in swimming. He smashed his personal best and set a new national record in the 100-meter freestyle. Now, if you allow me for a moment, just to say how proud I am of these youngsters. When we started the swimming program, an initiative of this government several years ago, the idea really was to teach Nevisians how to swim, because so many Nevisians cannot swim. We all remember the Christina disaster of August 1st, 1970. And I can't speak for others, but I know my mother remonstrated with me daily, do not go to the sea, you will drown. And as a result, a lot of us grew up with a phobia of the sea and could not swim. Many complain that without adequate public pool facilities, they're forced to learn to swim in the ocean with currents and obviously fish there, sharks, and other things that people say that they're afraid of. So there's been a combination of factors. And that Christina disaster has remained very deeply embedded in our psyche. And we decided to break the back of that as a government. I'm very proud of that program. It doesn't get a lot of attention. But every single year, we have swim camps. We have swimming in our schools. We bring in professionals. We have trained trainers, so we now have local trainers. And out of that has come now those who want to swim competitively. And so you now have the St. Kitts Nevis Aquatics Federation, and they are now trying to put St. Kitts Nevis on the map for swimming. But guess what? All of the swimmers currently who are showing world promise are from Nevis. And that is a reflection of the fact that Nevis has invested in those programs. I say this because a lot of times people think development happens overnight. And when you announce a program sometimes 5 years ago, 6 years ago, when this program was initiated, some people may look at it and say, oh, well, but look at it now. Young Skylar, Singapore, wearing the flag of St. Kitts and Nevis. Young Jonathan Bardales, Essian Bardales, Paraguay. And they're not alone, because we had young Mr. Nisbet, who went to the Olympics, being the first ever person from St. Kitts and Nevis to go to an Olympics swimming event. I feel very proud of these young people and very proud of where this program is headed. And I want to say kudos to the Honorable Troy Liburd, who's our Minister of Sport, Mr. Jamie Claxton, my good friend, who has been spearheading this particular swimming initiative. The PS, of course, Zanella Claxton, and the entire team. They have really done a good job. And of course, we have a cohort of volunteers who come from overseas and local trainers as well. They're doing an excellent job, and I think we ought, as a country, to applaud them and to applaud this program that has done exceedingly well. More and more people are now swimming in Nevis for exercise and now for competition. And we have gone even further and introduced a program now where we are teaching safety skills to our boat operators so that if somebody were to fall overboard, people know what to do. If they were at the beach and somebody were to have difficulty, people know what to do. This is mainstreaming through our population, these skill sets, so that we can be safe. I feel very proud of it, members of the press and members of the public. The Department of Sports recently concluded its annual summer sports camp. During that time, they had various disciplines: cricket, football, tennis, swimming, table tennis, and basketball. What is important about these camps, which we do every year, is that they provide opportunities for children to be actively involved in sport. They say the devil finds work for idle hands. We make sure that our children are occupied. Our parents, they can go to work knowing that their children are involved in something wholesome, positive, and uplifting. And I will tell you, I had a breakfast meeting recently with a lady who is not from here. She is a Caucasian woman from the United States. And she said that she was so impressed with the summer programs here that she is thinking about enrolling her children in the program in Nevis, because she said she couldn't believe the cost, how cheap it was for these programs in Nevis compared to what she would pay in the United States to have her children occupied during the summer. So she said to buy their tickets, bring them here, put them up, and have them involved in summer camp in Nevis. It was still cheaper than if she were to do it in the United States. I thought that was interesting, but she saw the quality of what we're doing. She's saying that she's going to bring her children to enroll. The Department of Sports, in terms of cricket, we want to thank the St. Kitts Nevis Patriots, their players Jid Gooley and Navin Bidesi. They facilitated a training and motivational session with young cricketers in Nevis in the summer camp. This initiative was coordinated by Senior Sport Officer Kezron Archibald and SKN Patriots team manager Dario Brantley. The SKN Patriots and the Department of Sports continue to have an excellent working relationship, and we look forward to the Patriots continuing to do well. 3 young division players in Arkela Herman, Zion France, and Rhone Isles were selected to the St. Kitts Nevis Under-14 girls team, which participated in the Caribbean Football Union Under-14 Girls Challenge Series in Trinidad. We say congratulations to them, and we make special mention of Zion France, who was St. Kitts Nevis' top scorer at the tournament. The Department of Youth Summer Job Attachment Program recently concluded with a closing ceremony. The program was held under the theme Career Ready, powered by tech. There were 69 applicants, 62 trainees, and 49 were placed. We say thank you to the 32 businesses who accommodated the interns and look forward to the continued success of this program. The Department of Youth extends commendations to Ms. Yuta Trish Taylor and Ms. Davincia Bartlett, 2025 Youth Impact 12 awardees, for successfully hosting a 3-day financial literacy workshop for teens between the ages of 15 and 18. The initiative was sponsored by Regency Assurance and reflects the continued partnership between the Department of Youth and Regency Assurance, which allows awardees to create and implement a project that would positively impact other young people. We commend Regency Assurance, for their assistance and partnership. Public Library concluded its annual summer program as well. 128 children, let me repeat that, 128 children benefited over 3 weeks from that program. Participants ranged from age 2 to 15. High school students undertook the Every Story Counts documentation exercise, where they interviewed persons on the streets of Charlestown and they benefited from sessions on responsible use of AI, money management, and the basics of chess. We also want to commend 3 students from the Charleston Secondary School. I mentioned Carrie Fester earlier. Well, Malachi Lestrade, Excellence Nisbet, and Jadiel Joseph, and their teacher Kermani Webb. And 2 students from the Gingerland Secondary School, Maria Daniel and Jedinique Griffin. Those earlier ones are from Charlestown. These from Gingerland Secondary are Mariah Daniel and Jedinique Griffin. Their teacher, Ella Wangechi Powell. They joined a contingent of students who represented the Federation at Carrie Festa 15 Jamboree. The group left the Federation on August 21st and will return on August 29th. While in Barbados, the students will join with other youth in the region in sharing experiences of the festival. I also want to indicate that the new school year is well and truly on the way in terms of starting. The department began preparations for the start of the new school year with a 3-day leadership summit for educational officials. Leaders from all across all school levels, preschool, primary, etc. would have gathered at MGR Park Tuesday 19th to 21st August. School began for teachers and all staff on Monday 25th August with the annual back-to-school convocation. That was held at NEPAC. I apologize to them. I apologize again. I was unwell and could not make it to NEPAC. Then during the convocation, the Ministry of Education announced a very novel program, an innovative program. It is called a Teaching Excellence Program, TEP. It is providing up to $1,000 for individual teachers and $2,500, $2,500 for teacher groups to fund innovative classroom projects and enhance student learning. With $10,000 available per cycle and applications accepted twice yearly in August to September and December to January, the program aims to support creative teaching approaches that address real-time classroom needs while ensuring sustainable impact. I would want to commend again the ministry and team for these types of innovations. The school year officially begins for students on Monday, 1st September. That's next Monday. And we look forward to welcoming our students back and wish them a productive academic year. Midterm break will be October 24th to 27th. And term 1 will end, God willing, on December 5th, 2025. Let me go very quickly to announce with pride that the annual Medical University of the Americas Nevis Island Administration Scholarship Award recipients were announced on July 31st. This year, Ms. Lakeisha Rogers and Mr. Kimani Hanley were selected as successful awardees. Mr. Rogers will pursue a degree in pharmacy at the University of the West Indies in Antigua, while Mr. Hanley will undertake studies in information technology with a concentration in cybersecurity at Florida International University. We extend heartfelt congratulations to young Lakeisha Rogers and Kimani Hanley and encourage other young people, please, to take advantage of the scholarship opportunities. Members of the press have been doing this now for a long time, and I keep asking you to help me to ask our people to apply. I just saw 28 students from St. Kitts and Nevis headed to Taiwan. And when I looked in that crowd, I could only find 1 student from Nevis. And when I asked the question, the response came that our students, in the main, have not been applying. I don't know whether it is Nevis people rich or they like loans. I don't know what to say. Because these opportunities are there, and if Kittitians are grabbing them, you mean 28 students are headed to Taiwan and 27 of them are from St. Kitts? 1 is who I gather is from Nevis. I hope that information is correct. And so the reality is, and the Taiwanese government themselves have asked of me, what's happening? Nevisians are not applying, Nevisians are not extending themselves and grasping the opportunities. Every time I talk to young people in Nevis, they tell you they want to go Monroe, they want to go Midwestern, they want to go UVI because that's where their friends are going. And whilst that is fine, if you don't have your friends' money, grab a scholarship. Look at young Miss Lakeisha Rogers and young Mr. Hanley. They're going to get a first-class education, 1 in pharmacy and one in cybersecurity. And guess what? They will not spend a penny. Their family will not spend a penny. So when they come back, when you who decide you're going someplace and borrow money from Development Bank or National Bank and put your family in debt, when you come back, your first obligation when you start to work, you know what your first obligation is? Pay back student loan. When you have a scholarship and you go away and come back, as soon as you start to work, you start to build. You can buy land, build house. You don't have to worry about paying any bank, any student loan. And I've spoken to so many of our people who say for the first 5, sometimes even 10 years of their work life, their money is going to pay student loan. So again, please, in all that is good, in the name of Jesus Christ, I am praying and asking our people, please apply for the scholarships. We have Morocco. I believe it is 20 per year they offered, if I recall correctly. And the Moroccan, when I was foreign minister, the Moroccan foreign minister berated me. He said, Mr. Brantley, you begged me for scholarships, and none of your students are coming. We have Romania. We have countries all across the globe. But our people are not applying. So, I have asked the Human Resource Department here to take the message into the schools. I have asked them to go to the sixth form and have that conversation. And I will undertake that I too, as Premier of Nevis, will join the expedition. Our young people need to stand up, get up, and do the things that are necessary to put themselves in a position that they can compete and that they can do well. And I'm imploring them and their parents, because I will tell you, at the risk of some being offended, that sometimes the parents are part of the problem. Because I've had parents tell me Taiwan too far. This place is too far. My child ain't going so far. In today's world, what's far? Imagine your child can go to Taiwan, get a first-class education for free, and come back speaking Mandarin. And you know what bothers me? Nevis has introduced Mandarin as a second language. The very reason we introduced Mandarin was to say that when our young people come to study in places like Taiwan, they don't have to do the first year. Remember, when students go, they tend to have the first year is to learn the language, and then they get into the degree. So we have had a Mandarin program in Nevis now for almost 5 years, a very successful program. We have a lot of our young people now in Nevis who can speak Mandarin. And so we are saying to them, now you have that impetus. Make the application. Make yourself available. And take advantage of these opportunities. Please. And so, yes, we will be coming into the schools and we'll be speaking to parents as well. I do not like to hear it said that Nevisians are not getting opportunity because they're not applying. It is not a good reflection on us. I want to extend sincere gratitude to Mr. Terence Henry and his wife, Ms. Monique Swaby, for their very generous donation of medical supplies. They supplied adult diapers, gauze, burn and wound care creams, adult wipes, a high lift, wheelchairs, walkers, commodes, hand sanitizer, bed pads, and more. These much-needed items were distributed to the Alexandra Hospital, the Flamboyant Home, but also to the St. George's Nursing Home. As we do in this government, we distributed products to private individuals in need in their homes as well. So the entire community would have benefited from the generosity of Mr. Henry and Ms. Swaby. We say thank you to them. The department has also asked me to announce that in collaboration with the Bank of Nevis and Finnish Touch, they are presenting the Grill Master Competition. Join us on Saturday, September 7th. It promises to be a great day at the VOJ in Plainfield from 1 p.m. for an exciting afternoon of food, fun, and friendly rivalry. Male grillers are invited to register at the Department of Gender Affairs. So members of the press, when you can grill, please register to compete for the title of Nevis Grill Master and ultimate bragging rights. The day will feature a thrilling cricket match live musical entertainment, and a variety of delicious food on sale. Please do not miss it. September 7th, Grill Master competition. Perhaps, P.S., we can put a team together and see whether we can win the title of Nevis Grill Master. Food Handlers Clinic will be held on Wednesday, August 27th at Pond Hill and August 28th at Jessup's. Please, if your food handler's permit is expired or you potentially getting into the food handling business, please go and register. Caribbean Wellness Day 2025 under the theme Engage, Empower, Elevate, working together to improve health and well-being for all is on the way. They're celebrating here with a number of events. Fitness in the Park, 4-in-1 workout, kickstart the wellness celebrations featuring power walk, Zumba, resistance band exercises, and yoga. Date, September 6th, 7 to 8 a.m. at the MGR Park. Beautiful setting for that type of event. On the 8th of September, there's the annual Sneaker Day, Scavenger Hunt Edition. Lace up your sneakers and join the fun. Follow the clues posted on the Facebook page to discover wellness-themed surprises. That is happening on September 12th. That's the 8th annual Sneaker Day on September 12th. Then there's Caribbean Wellness Day. Join us at the official day of observance for our annual community walk promoting healthy living and unity. Date, September 13th, 6 a.m. And the location is the entrance of the Yachtsman Grill. Follow Health Nevis Promotion and Nevis HPU Facebook pages for posters and updates. The Department of Social Services is very pleased to report the successful completion of Phase 4 of the RISE program and the official commencement of Phase 5. Members of the press and public, we're very proud of this program. At present, 13 clients are enrolled in the program. Of these, 9 sat exams during Phase 4, that is CAPE or CSEC exams, and 8 recorded successful passes. Notably, one exemplary client obtained a grade 1 with distinction, a remarkable achievement that reflects the program's impact in building dedication, perseverance, and academic success. The Social Services Seniors Program continues to provide for our seniors. This government provides for everyone, from the day you're born until the day you're called home. We have programs that provide for you. And the Seniors Program is one of the best in the entire Caribbean. And that program continues apace. On Friday, 8 August, seniors collected 327 pounds of plastic bottles and tins from across Nevis. Those recyclables were delivered to another program that I'm very proud of, our recycling program, which is going great. And I encourage Nevisians to continue to participate, keep Nevis clean, recycle, get rid of old plastics and the like. We have a program now where we are collecting, crushing, and exporting them off the island. I'll come back to that collecting and crushing in a moment. In addition, the seniors had 35 of them registered for the garden competition. 22 successfully completed it, and judging was conducted. I want to tell you that the winners of the competition are the award for Most Beautiful Flower Garden. First place, Miss Omel Roberts Nolan from Newcastle Village. Second place, Charmin Jeffers of Cotton Ground. The award for Best Vegetable Garden, first place was Mr. Eugene Hendrickson of Hard Times, and second place went to Miss Wilma Huggins of Maynard Ground. The closing ceremony for the competition was held on Friday, 22nd August 2025. And so we congratulate all of the participants and continue to wish our seniors long life and happiness. As I mentioned, cleanup. Let me also say that we are in the process of embarking on a massive cleanup of abandoned cars across the island of Nevis. We have recognized that many people have these cars scattered around their yard, scattered around the neighborhood, sometimes parked on the public road and impeding traffic. We will use the tools available to the government by law to get those vehicles moved. The expectation is that we will fund the removal of the vehicles. We will take them to the designated place. We have contracted with someone who has brought in the equipment who will crush those vehicles, and we will export the metal. That is the intention as we do a massive cleanup. The police have complained that these derelict vehicles around Nevis are used often to hide contraband, to hide weapons. The health department has complained that these vehicles are breeding grounds for rodents, for roaches, and for vectors like mosquitoes. It is in our interests, from a cleanliness point of view, from a health point of view, from a security point of view, and certainly from an aesthetic point of view, to clean up Nevis. I am saying this from this rostrum because I know that our people sometimes can be quite stubborn. And I know sometimes people are holding on to vehicles for no apparent reason. They're simply holding on to them. And we know that we pass certain locations in Nevis, and there are scores, if not hundreds, of abandoned vehicles in those areas. We will be coming. We will be picking them up. We will be crushing them. And we will be getting them off the island. It is one of the ways that we are responding to the influx of vehicles. Just recently, we had news that in one day, 50 vehicles arrived at Long Point for the island of Nevis. One day. And I'm advised now that these boats that are bringing in vehicles are coming in several times per month. That one day of 50 is significant. Of course, it says that Nevisians certainly are being able to afford high-ticket items, which perhaps speaks to the economy and how people are doing. I remember one person said to me, you shouldn't boast about that because it means that people are borrowing money and putting themselves in debt. But in my limited experience with banking, banks only lend money to people who could afford to pay. And so if somebody can afford to borrow for a car, it means that the bank has confidence that that person is working, they have the capacity to repay. And so whether you're buying it cash or you're buying it through a loan, people are opting to buy big ticket items like vehicles. The problem with that is that it then puts a strain on the local environment. On the roads, people complain bitterly about parking in Charlestown, and more vehicles means that more and more of them ultimately, as they get old and abandoned, we have to find a way to get rid of them. And so we are responding by partnering with persons with the necessary equipment to pick up, crush, and export those vehicles. And so I urge our public, please, to cooperate with us. To cooperate with us. I see vehicles sometimes in bushes completely overgrown now, with what we call it locally B-bush. We are asking our people to cooperate. Vehicles up on 4 stones, vehicles that we know will never drive again. Please cooperate. Allow us to take these things away and crush them and get them off the island. And so that is important to us. I will end by indicating that the topic that has consumed much of St. Kitts and Nevis over the past 3 weeks or so has been the legislation that was passed, Special Sustainability Zones Authorization Act in the National Parliament. That conversation has heated up significantly because this is an attempt to further diversify the St. Kitts Nevis economy. I believe all of us, members of the press, have heard, and certainly I have been championing for some time now, that we find alternatives to the Citizenship by Investment program. It is going through challenges. I have not seen recent numbers, but all indications are that the heyday, when the country was making $600 and $700 million a year, that heyday may well be behind us. Are we to sit still, or are we to try to find the next innovation? When we introduced Citizenship by Investment way back in 1984, it was the first program of its kind in the world. We gave the world that idea. So too, this special sustainability zone is the first of its kind in the world that is being proposed. Why? Because it is seeking to twin prosperity with sustainability. It is saying that it's not just about economic expansion, it's also about sustainability and environmental protection. And the whole idea here is to promote and create opportunities for our people. I want you to understand that when I speak, I am speaking in broad developmental terms. So when I encourage our young people to get scholarships, I encourage our young people to train. I do not want to encourage them to get scholarships and to train only for them then to say to me, Mr. Brantley, I have to stay in America. I have to stay in Canada. I have to stay in the UK because there are no opportunities in Nevis for me to come back. Nevis has to be able to provide the types of jobs, the quality jobs that our young people can come back home. And those who left some time ago to go abroad, to better themselves, to also say to them that there are opportunities here now that they can come to. We have a situation, let's face it, where the outer world is becoming increasingly hostile to immigrants. When in years past we could waltz into Canada and into America and find comfort and find work, people, including our people, are now being rounded up and sent home. So we must prepare for what this world is going to look like in 5-10 years. And that means we must be more self-sufficient. We must be able to provide more for our people. And we must provide opportunity at home for our people. We cannot build an economy, as I've seen some countries try to do, on remittances, where we send our people overseas and wait for them to send something back in order for us to survive. Nevis has passed those years. That era for us is over. We must now provide opportunities here. And that is why this Special Sustainability Zones Authorization Act provides a framework for developers who are interested in setting up such zones to come to the government, whether in Bastia or in Charlestown, depending on where they're setting up their zone, and to seek permission from the government to set up such a zone. I would invite members of the press, the bill is very short, it's only 9 pages. I would invite members of the press to read it carefully for themselves, because I have never seen, in my experience, and I believe now I'm an old, wily politician, I've been around for a while, I've never seen this level of misinformation. The other night I called into a program and one pundit on the program said that this legislation allows people to come in and set up their own country in Nevis. I said, oh, well, I debated the legislation and I don't recall seeing that. He said, yes, it's in the act. And those who know me know that I like receipts. I like to have the answers at hand. And so I said, well, could you read out the section for me and for the listening audience? That was Tuesday night. Today is Thursday. I'm told he's still looking for the section, because there's no such section. And I am calling on members of the press, please, to help us in terms of disseminating accurate information. The country benefits from debate, but debate that is based on fact. I have seen, in response to this legislation, grave utterances that the government will now be taking away people's land from them. In fact, senior political operatives in the country are going on radio and making national addresses telling people the government is now going to take their land. That's what the legislation does. That is not the case. Nowhere in the legislation does it speak to government taking any land from anyone. The scheme of the legislation is that if a developer has land, that developer can come, and provided that they can satisfy the preconditions which are set out in Section 5. They must bring the economic impact. They must show how they're going to put in their infrastructure. They must show how they're going to supply their own water, how they're going to generate electricity, 70% of which must be renewable, how they're going to ensure that historical sites are preserved, if there are any on that site, and how, of course, they're going to make sure that waste is dealt with. All of those are requirements, and how they will ensure that whatever development they're doing is in harmony with nature. There are a number of safeguards. One of the grossly misleading statements, as well put out by some who are, of course, in that bracket of natural neighbors of extreme negativity. What have they said? They said that I, Mark Anthony Graham Brantley, have gone to St. Kitts and have given control of Nevis lands over to the Prime Minister. Well, how could I break the Constitution? Am I above the supreme law? Because, in fact, all that we have said is that if there is to be a zone on Nevis, Section 4 of the legislation makes it pellucid. There can be no zone on Nevis unless the Nevis Island Administration says yes, unless it approves. And I will go further. There can be no zone on Nevis unless the agreement established in the zone is debated and passed in the Nevis Island Assembly. So it's not only cabinet, the whole assembly with opposition members and government members must debate and pass that legislation in order to allow that zone to be created. The legislation at Section 9 goes further, and it says that the Premier can set up a body in Nevis, a monitoring body, to ensure that any zone that comes to Nevis does what it says it's going to do. So, why am I speaking about this now? One, of course, because, regrettably, there is a lot of misinformation, and those who, in my view, appear to be opposed to any form of development for Nevis have come out in force. But I'm also speaking to it because we need to imagine a future for this island where we can provide for our people, especially our young people. There's some of us who are here today, people like me who are now in our middle age, and we may feel that, well, things are good. But what about our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren? What about the next generations that are to come? When the Four Seasons came 30 years ago, it provided a payday for many families on the island of Nevis. Did the Four Seasons meet criticism? I remember well. I was a youngster then. But I remember people saying, oh, people can't go to the sea. And I smiled the other day when I listened to a program and somebody said, fishermen can't fish anymore. Because I said, these are the same old, tired rhetoric from 30-odd years ago. But look at the Four Seasons. Look at the number of jobs and opportunities for our farmers, for our fishers, for our taxi drivers. For the tourism industry, I just called out some numbers. We already, by August, we are ahead of where we were for the entire year in 2024. That is what Four Seasons has brought. And I'm asking the people of Nevis, therefore, imagine a development that is multiple times the size of Four Seasons, but the same quality. A development which is promising shops, restaurants, hotels, luxury hotels. They're saying up to 3, a minimum of 3 resort communities, anchored by some of the best name resort, hotel, high-end that the world has to offer. The possibility of a marina development in that area for those who have yachts and want to come in to Nevis. We now have a growing yachting sector, but we do not have a marina to accommodate them on Nevis. And so they're looking at a comprehensive development. But the thing that, ladies and gentlemen, and I will end here, the thing that for me is most encouraging about this particular proposal that we have now received is that it is proposing to do a development on the south coast of Nevis. Those of you who know Nevis well would know that from the time you leave Long Point area, headed south, all around to the lighthouse, and almost as far as Hanley's Road, there is absolutely nothing. If you were to go up to Sandy in Brownhill and get your fried chicken, and while you're there, you look over, go up on top, what we call up the hill, and you look over, you see thousands and thousands of acres of land with absolutely nothing on it. There's no road, there's no water, there's no electricity, there is nothing on it. And that barren area of Nevis, where the lands are being eroded every day by the sea, and huge tracts of Nevis are falling into the ocean, that is the area that these developers say they can transform. I am here to say, as the Premier of Nevis, that if we were to say no to investment in that area, I do not know that we, as a government, would be able to put in the necessary infrastructure to spur development in that area for another several decades. A lot of people in that area own land. In fact, there are over 200 private landowners in that area. Many of them, it appears, are elderly. A lot of them live overseas. A lot of them live in St. Kitts. Many of them have passed on. The reality is that none of them have indicated that they have any plans to develop these lands. Some have inherited, whatever the position may be. But these hundreds of owners do not, at this point, have any intention to develop. And so what are we as government to do? We had a preliminary approach from these developers sometime in the past. And we said to these developers, the government doesn't own lands, the lands are privately owned. We are now investigating, using our surveyors, whether there are any pockets of land over there that the government may own, the Crown may own, but currently, as advised, we do not have title to any lands over there. And we have therefore said to the developers, your first order of business is to go and secure land, because without land, you can't declare a zone. And they have therefore gone ahead and have engaged in contacting persons about purchasing their private land. And so, members of the press, all this rancor and all this hysteria that we've heard about the government selling land, the government has not sold 1 square inch of land to anyone. The government has not entered into any agreement for sale, because the government, the only land I know the government had over there was 238 acres. And that land, during a previous NRP-led administration, was swapped by that government for debt to the National Bank. You all remember the famous expression, poof? Well, those 230 acres have gone poof. And so I just want to make the record clear that this is an opportunity for development. And one last fact, I did say that was the last point. I just want to point out that this promises to generate the type of activity which will see hundreds of millions of dollars flowing directly to the Nevis Island administration. What that does, it allows us to better provide roads, water, electricity, hospital. You know, every day people call me, what's happening at the hospital, when you're going to finish the hospital? It allows me to finish the hospital. It allows me to build better schools. It allows, let me not say me, it allows the government, whoever's in government, the opportunity to use resources to develop the country, healthcare, education, social safety nets, making better provisions for our people. That is what we're seeking to do. Members of the press, I take your questions and comments. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Premier. Elke Hewlett, Department of Information. I'll start with the non-controversial questions first. I might just leave them to my colleagues. Has there been any movement with the broiler facility earmarked for the Prospect area? Number 2, unfortunately, Ms. Chen Chi, the Mandarin teacher who's been here for, I think, almost 5 years, she's going back to Taiwan in a week or 2, I think. Is there any plan to have another Mandarin teacher for Nevis? Okay, I'll venture into the controversial ones.
Controversial according to you?
Slightly.
Okay.
Hopefully there won't be. You've been accused of not being honest with the public about the proposed special sustainability zone development when asked about it at a July 5th town hall, I think it was. How do you respond to that? Also, If in fact, as you have said, high-ranking members of the NRP have sold lands to those same developers, what do you think the motive is behind the opposition painting this same development in a negative light? And I'll end it there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. The broiler industry, I have confessed I have not had on the broiler production facility an update in time for this press conference, but I do know that the last update I had, they were doing the ground clearing work, doing the excavation and that, so that they can prepare for the building. I do know that the government has made the first tranche of payments to the contractors, and I do know that we are using a group out of Canada, and they have come and they are now using local contractors. They are physically on island to supervise those works. So I did promise that I would go and check for myself in terms of seeing the progress, but the last update I had officially was that they had done the excavation for the foundations. I don't know how much further they've had. The Mandarin teacher, I want to go on record to thank Madam Chen Chi. She was such a lovely human being, somebody who came and really adopted Nevis. And I see at the supermarket, she goes to church. She's so involved in the community, and I want to thank her. Madam Chen Chi, if you're listening, thank you so much for your contribution, and to thank the Taiwanese government, the outgoing ambassador who has now left us, Ambassador Michael Lin, and the new ambassador who has now joined us, for their continued support. I do not have a word yet as to if and when she will be replaced, but I can tell you that we will be pushing hard for this program to continue. And so the hope would be that Taiwan will continue its generosity to us and make a replacement teacher available. And of course, if Madam Chen Chi wants to come back, we encourage her to do that. She's a lovely, lovely individual. Now, you said that some are accusing me of being dishonest at a town hall meeting on July 5th. I want to be very clear, Ms. Hewlett, that when I speak officially, as I'm doing now, I speak as a Premier of Nevis. And I am not willing to engage with individuals in terms of conjecture, in terms of hypotheticals, or in terms of what that particular woman, lady, resident in that area, came to the town hall and said that she had heard rumors. I do not believe it is appropriate for me to engage at that level unless I have information. At that town hall, what did I say? I said to the person who asked the question about a possible development, I said we have had a preliminary approach from some developers who have indicated an interest in doing a development along the south coast. We have said to those developers, the government does not have land in that area. Therefore, you must go off and see whether or not the private landowners in that area are prepared to sell you or lease you or whatever their land. Once you have done that, come back and talk to us. The lady then went on to say she hear fishermen are not going to be able to fish. She hear this is the rumor. I am not in her circles. Did she get the rumor at her church group? Did he get the rumor from radio? Did she see it on Facebook somewhere? I do not know. So I'm saying to the people of Nevis, as the Premier of Nevis, my job is to respond with facts, not to engage with rumor mongering. So when the people brought now a formal application, I felt it was appropriate then for me to speak publicly because I now have a document, I have something in front of me that I can speak to. When they came initially, they were saying all kinds of things they would like, just basically, in my view, a conversation. They had a video that they had produced to say, well, this is what we think it could look like and all of that. We, in fact, sent them to planning department. We said, go and speak to planning, find out, get some guidance. So all of that was preliminary stuff. We had no formal application before the cabinet. And that is the important point that I continue to try and make, that in my statement, I was not at all trying to be dishonest in any way. I admitted we had had a preliminary approach. Those words seem to me to be quite plain English. We have had a preliminary approach from some developers to do a development on the south coast. The person at the thing now, we know who she is, and she clearly had come there with her script ready. But she came because she wanted to engage in something about rumors. She said it. The word did not come from me, you know. Because I realized as the pundits spin and spin and spin, they're now saying that I allege that these were rumors. She was the one. She said, I have heard rumors that this is the case, and rumors. I said, ma'am, I can't respond to that. And if I'm to be faulted as the Premier of Nevis for taking a position which is sober, which is sensible, and which, to my mind, reflects mature leadership, which is to say, when I am armed with information, I will speak. Absent that, I'm not prepared to engage in what ifs, and what if this and what if that. It is those same rumors that I now see being bandied about. I saw one of I thought he would be here today, my good friend, who comes sometimes. Sometimes he's in Africa, sometimes he's in Santo Domingo. He's all over the place. But he came and he said, he put up something, and I was so pleased that he put it in green. Because he said that the zone going to stretch from Butlers. We know where Butlers is? Butlers is in the east. All the way, take up all of Nevis. When I look at it, I said to my family, I said, our house is now in the zone too. All up Montpelier, go all the way down to Bath. And they're pushing this stuff out. Any child could take a crayon, and that I believe is what he did. He took a green crayon, and he just drew so on Nevis and put it out. That is what. And hear the cry. CCM selling out Nevis. But how CCM could sell what he doesn't own? If any of you members of the press or public could explain to me how I could sell what I do not own, I would be more than happy to understand that concept. And that is a simple point that we've been making. Now, on the issue of lands, I can confirm that very prominent members of the NRP, including the leader of the NRP, have sold lands in that area. In fact, my information is that the leader of the NRP would have entered into her arrangements to sell since last year. The indication I got was that she signed the necessary documentation in November of last year. Now, I've heard a bunch of hullabaloo. And I just want to say to members of the press that, listen, we have to understand the realities. The leader of NRP has now made 2 public addresses that I'm aware of. 2 national addresses that I'm aware of. In the first address, she said, and introduced, because prior to that, I had not said a word. My first statement publicly on this matter was the 25th, I believe, of August. Her statement was on the 19th of August. And she told the country that there was a will, her father's will. She told the country that in the will, the father directed that some lands that he owned on the South Coast be sold. She told the country that the executors were approached to sell those lands, and the executors would have signed up whatever sale arrangements. She then went on to say to the country, she has no land in the area. Well, that seems reasonable. But I'm a lawyer by training, and my mind is an inquisitive mind. And so I decided to do what any ordinary person would do. Since you mentioned will, all wills that are probated at the probate registry, members of the press take $10, or 5 or 10. Stamped, and you go, you search it for yourself. And so I said, well, this is a public document. So what, in fact, does the document provide? And this is why I'm saying that we must have a common standard for decency and engagement for public officials. Because here is what the leader told us. There is a will from her father. 2, the will say, sell the land on the South Coast. 3, the executors were approached and signed up whatever to sell. And 4, she does not own any land. Now, the impression that that gives me, listening to it, is that there's some land somewhere over there that belongs to the father, some executors somewhere of that estate would have agreed to sell those lands, and that sale had nothing to do with the leader of NRP. So you could imagine my shock when I went now and got the receipts to see that the will says that she is an executor. Well, she forgot to tell us that when she made her national address. Because in her national address, she never once said to the people of Nevis that I am one of the executors. No, she only said the executors were approached. She forgot to tell the people of Nevis that she signed the sale documents. How could you forget that? How could you forget that, members of the press? Let's be reasonable and realistic. And then most egregiously, she forgot to tell the public that while the father said to sell the land, the father then went on to say, when that land is sold, 5 acres money is to go to the leader of NRP. That is cash in her pocket. So this is not some third-party transaction. This has nothing to do with me, you know. It's my father says sell land and the executors. Well, how you forget to tell people that you are the executor? How you forget to tell people that you signed the agreement? And how you forget to tell people that you will collect money from the sale personally? And based on the numbers that I am seeing, that sale will run to several $1 million. So I am now hearing people say, oh, Mark needs to show that the money went into her account. And Mark needs, well, who am I, the banker? I am really concerned that in our country, people can get away with misleading the public. There are certain kinds of lies, you know. There are lies of what they call commission, and there are lies of omission. Sometimes you tell a lie by what you do not disclose. Sometimes you tell a lie by what you conceal. And this is a prime example, because when the leader of NRP made her public address, she knew that she was the executor. She knew that she signed, and she knew that she's the beneficiary. How she forget all that? And then people are saying, oh, she was being honest and forthright. How she forget all that? And she has made 2 speeches. Every speech she cusses me. Abuse me as if I'm the one who signed to sell the land. Abuse me as if I'm going to collect any money from the sale of land. Not me. I don't have any land in the area. And I am wondering, Ms. Hewlett, why individuals are seeking to be so dishonest about it. If you have sold your land and collect your money, that is your right. That is your right. I have spoken to so many individuals. In fact, last night on a program on the Mark, one fella called in and said he wish he had some land over there. That is your right. So nobody could be upset with you for that. Here's where the dishonesty comes in. The opposition in Nevis has always been opposed to any development that they hear about. I remind members of the press that when the Mondo track was announced, they went all out. We're building a track next to the dump, and flies are going to be over there, and the track will not function. Well, the track is there now serving the people of Nevis. And St. Kitts, I'm reminded, because in St. Kitts, when their track was out of commission, they were able to use this one. When we were going to do the water taxi facility, oh, this, and they got some old tent out there, and ha, ha, ha. But millions of people now are going back and forth using that water taxi facility. You just have to go over there during Music Fest or Culturama, and you see the number of people using that facility every day. And that facility has now spawned an entire industry, a water taxi industry that is owned by Nevisions. Go over there, you see Blue Wave, you see Islander, you see the other chap there, Paradise Sun. All of them are locally owned. When I go there and I see young women captaining boats, I see young men who are now boat captains. That is what development looks like. What would those youngsters have been doing otherwise? Maybe they would have gravitated to one of the other islands where they have a boating industry, but they can now be right here, working and contributing to Nevis. They criticized that too. When we announced the airport, before I was able to give any information to the public, the leader of NRP led a massive 6-person march over there in the hot sun. Remember, I saw one of my good friends here, a business owner here in town, and I felt so sorry for him. Because I saw an old man like that in the hot sun with a placard saying they're against. What are they against? Then they started the rumor that we have sold the airport to some white man. Let us not forget these things, you know. Because what they show is a pattern of behavior. Every time that Nevis, or you hear that something is going to happen to advance the island, the rumors and the allegations and the, frankly, this may not be the language I should use, but the foolishness starts. Brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, let's have meaningful conversations in the country. If the leader of NRP sell her land and collect her money, praise be to God. I'm happy for her and her family. If other bigwigs in the party, somebody asks me why you don't name them, I say, well, they're not trouble me, so I'm leaving them alone. But if they have sold and collected their money, praise be to God. I spoke to a fellow yesterday. The fellow told me one of them saw him and said, boy, I sold my land and collected over 2 million. So it's okay for him to collect over 2 million. But you're castigating other people for selling what belongs to them. And then turning around and having the audacity to point a finger at the government, which hasn't sold anything because we don't own anything, and say that the government is selling out Nevis. These are the sort of nonsense that we are having to deal with. When instead, I believe, we should be debating. You know what the debate I want in the country? Is that the best use of land in Nevis? Is that what we should be doing in that area? Is the area too big for that type of development? Do we want more resorts? They're proposing a minimum of 3 over time over there. You know, let's have that kind of debate, substantive, rather than all this fear-mongering. Imagine you're going to tell fishermen that they will no longer be able to fish. That's one of the arguments the NRP has been using in Nevis. Well, let me ask you something. Who could stop the fishermen in Nevis from going and sea? They say, oh, the people are going to have a seabed lease. So that means, I hear one of them say, for 10 miles out, no boat can go because that belongs to the people. And I said to myself, what is really happening? You see this thing called internet? It has created an opportunity for positive engagement, but it's also created an opportunity for mischief. A seabed lease does not achieve any of that. I would remind the Visions that Tamarind Cove has a seabed lease because they were supposed to do a marina. Christopher Harbour has a seabed lease. I believe Port Zante has a seabed lease. All the seabed lease is granted to do because they have to attach pilings to the seabed to build their piers and build their structures. That is all. But you have this noise and fury about fishermen can't fish, people can't go to the beach. If you all know that area as well as I do, I ask you to point out for me one beach that is in that area. There's a black sand beach just as you pass Long Point Pier. But from that going back, all you have is cliff and rock because it's on the Atlantic side. But even if beaches are created over there, which is possible because they're talking about reef restoration and all of that, beaches by law in St. Kitts and Nevis are public. I heard one commentator the other night say he was in Jamaica and he had to pay to go to a beach. And I said, but this isn't Jamaica. This is St. Kitts and Nevis. And there are certain things that we in St. Kitts and Nevis hold sacred. One of them is access to our beaches. But yet they are just spewing these things and saying these things rather than allowing the country to have a substantive debate. And that is why in my public address, I said, let's join hands. Let's find ways that we can work together to ensure that Nevis gets the best deal. This is not about me. I accuse a politician once of being in the checkout lounge, and I find myself seated comfortably in that checkout lounge now. At my age now, I am having to look now to say, what's my next move? Because politics is for young people, although there's some older than me trying to get in. What I will say is that it is time for us to sit and not look at ourselves, but look at the next generation and the one after that and say, what is the best deal that we can negotiate? That's what we need to do. Instead of the government trying to develop the island and being faced with this rancor and all of this misinformation. Geothermal, we're trying to develop geothermal. Oh, he gave away geothermal to Terence True. That's nonsense that passes as public debate. That's what the opposition is doing. Instead of engaging, the latest thing I see yesterday now, they're saying that the people who are proposing to invest are criminals. And that we're bringing criminals to Nevis. The only problem is some of the names that they're mentioning, I don't know who those people are. Because the government has no dealings with them. But it just tells you that it's one thing after another after another. One fella called in last night, and I believe he thought he had a gotcha moment. And he said, what when I declare the zone and people inside the zone decide they're not going to sell? Well, how are you going to declare man's land to be zone when the man is not sold his land to any developer? The scheme of the legislation anticipates that the developer has the land and then comes with the plan. I can't just go downtown and say from now, this area of Charleston is a zone, and all of you who inside the zone, too bad for you. That's not how the legislation works. When I answered the caller, I thought we would have a discussion. The caller started to, and then I hear click. Somebody say Verizon cut off before. I mean, let's get serious in the country. Any other questions for me? I'm just checking how I'm doing for time. I have 35 minutes left.
Good morning, Premier. Andre Huey, SK Newsline. I have a few questions. I think I'll start with the last subject you raised on the special economic zones legislation. As a two-parter, one, are you satisfied that the Nevision public understands the law as it is, based on how it was debated in Parliament? Of course, the legislation is available publicly so people can go and look at it, but everyone is not a lawyer. Everyone is, they need layman's explanation of it to ensure that what you are saying, what the federal government is saying, is indeed so. So are you satisfied, one, that Nevisions understand the crux of the law? That's part one. Part two, and you made reference to this in your national address on Monday, about your wife being attacked by the opposition, basically creating the impression that there's a conflict of interest situation going on there. How would you respond to that? I know you spoke about it. I don't know if her company has any dealings with the developers for those lands, because you didn't say that in the statement. And if that is the case, how would you respond to persons who say that this is an appearance of conflict of interest? That's it for special economic zones. Quickly, two other things. You spoke about the Aquatics Federation. I've interviewed them in the past, and they've indicated plans to build an aquatic center, either on Nevis or on St. Kitts. But what they're saying to me is that they're not getting any traction in their negotiations with either the NIA or the federal government. All you're asking for is land. They just want land to be able to build an aquatic center. If you could just give us an update on that. And finally, and I believe the last time I was here, I'd asked about the projects that were being built on the island that were part of the CBI, some of which are stalled and are just empty shells. There are quite a few on St. Kitts as well. I know the AG had mentioned some time ago that there were plans to have those shells, those buildings, sold to other developers, or to get something going rather than have these empty buildings lying around, littering the place. What are the plans by the NIA to deal with that here on Nevis? Because there are quite a few of them here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Huey. Always very thought-provoking questions. Thank you for being here today. Am I satisfied that the public understands the law? I think my answer would be no. Because if I were to say yes, then I would have to accuse a lot of people of deliberately misleading the public. So I would have to say no. And the reason I would say no is because I go back to the anecdote from the other night when a pundit said very boldly that these people are going to create their own country. And when I asked where that came from, he said it came from the law. And as I indicated, as of now, 11:30 on Thursday, he's still trying to find that section. It tells me that he did not really know what the law said. There are a lot of people in our country, and with the proliferation of radio and internet and Facebook and all of that, I find that many of us essay opinions before we inform ourselves. I have had a statement that I make from time to time, and I say we must engage our minds before we engage our mouth. Engage our mind before we engage our fingers. Because oftentimes when we do it the opposite way, what we're responding to, Mr. Hugh, is what somebody else tells us. A lot of the confusion in St. Kitts and Nevis comes because we listen to somebody say something. So let us, for example, assume that I was not on the line on Tuesday night. That gentleman would have said, these people are coming to create their own country. That's what the law says. Nobody would have challenged it. But the following morning, people would have been in town saying, why are you here? That is what the law said. And that is how misinformation takes hold. I'm going to say something, and I hope not to be controversial. But you know one of the reasons why that happens, Mr. Huey? Our people do not pay attention. The people in St. Kitts and Nevis continue to say to me that, boy, they're busy. They're busy. So the parliament that sat on August 11th was an open forum. You could come in there and sit down, or you could listen on radio, you could watch on television. Most of our people do not listen. They do not pay attention. And what they therefore do is they then rely on the talk show hosts and people like those to tell them what was said. And that's where the misinformation comes in. So I continue to say to our people, go to the source. Get accurate information. One lady rang me, Mr. Huey, and she said that after she heard all of this confusion and all the bad things that Mark Brantley is doing, and how I went to St. Kitts and give away Nevis, that she decided to go back on YouTube and listen to the parliamentary debate for herself. I wish more of our people would do that. Because she said when she listened for herself, she listened to the Prime Minister, she listened to me, she listened to Honorable Alexis Jeffers, she listened to Honorable Eric Evelyn. All of us spoke on the bill. She listened to Honorable Jeffrey Hanley, and she said she then got an understanding of what it was that we were discussing. Well, if that is happening in broad daylight, in public, on TV, on radio, don't you think that we can assume that people should know? But the truth is that many of our people don't know. And that is why I decided to do the national address, because I said I need to correct all this information. Misinformation is swirling. Let us go and say, what does the legislation in fact say? I have a copy of it here. It's only 9 pages. In fact, Mr. Hugh, if you don't have a copy, or any member of the press, I can provide you a copy. Simple English. It tells you what the zone is, how the zone is created, who has authority to create the zone, what safeguards are in place. It points out all of that. And so what we're going to do, Mr. Huey, I've been forced to accept that our people just do not understand it well enough. And so we plan to have a series of town hall meetings. And every engagement that I get, I will be speaking about what the law says, what it actually provides, and what it is that's proposed. The first thing that we intend to release is the economic impact assessment, because under Section 5 of the law, no zone can be declared without that being in place as a precondition. We have that document, and I believe that should go to the public shortly so that people can look at it and make their determination as to whether they see the benefits. But that was done by a third-party firm. So we'll have to look at that. Now let me move quickly. My wife was a realtor and conflict of interest. My wife was hired by this proposed investor. I think the name is South Nevis Limited. And my wife, I should point out, has been a licensed realtor for 20 years. So she was conducting her real estate business even before I got into politics. She was hired by these people. And why was she hired by them? Because, as I said, there were over 200 landowners in the area. And she was asked, could you find out who owns, and approach them and ask if they're willing to sell. And that is what she and a big team of people here, people overseas, have been working on. Finding Andrea Huey owns 10 acres. How do I get in touch with Mr. Huey? Call him. If, for example, in some cases people are deceased, who's in charge of the estate? Can you call them? And that is what the work that she has been doing. Some have said yea, like Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge. Some have said nay in relation to their land. That is their right. Now they've raised in this thing and said, oh, your wife, because it's your premier's wife, there's a conflict. And I'm saying, but my wife is not engaged in any government activity. There's no government land that is selling that she is involved with. And certainly she has a right, like any realtor on the island, to ask people to buy or sell property. That's her job. That's what she does. And so I have asked the question, and I did it as recently as last evening. Is it that we're now saying, Mr. Huey, that we want a new standard in the country where anybody associated with a public official cannot have any private business? And so my wife must shut down her real estate business of 20 years, fire the people who work with her, because her husband is now in public life. Janice Daniel Hodge, I believe she has a brother who's one of the biggest developers on Nevis. He must shut down all of his developments because that's her brother. They have blood. And that would present a conflict. If you are my cousin or even my close friend, if you and I, every weekend we hang out, go to the bar, people start to say, oh, the Premier and the PS very tight. The PS has a business and therefore, PS, I'm sorry, you must close down your business. What is the standard and what it is we're saying? Bearing in mind that unlike big countries with vast populations, we're 12,500 people on Nevis. If you start to go down that road, nearly everybody in Nevis is connected. And so you start to ask the question, is this a conflict? Is that a conflict? My view is, show me the actual conflict. Tell me that my wife is selling government land. That is a conflict. And that will never happen. Show me that some family member is benefiting from some government contract. That is a conflict. And that will never happen. But if all you're saying is that somebody out there engaged in private business simply because they're connected to somebody in public life, that presents a conflict, I feel that that is a stretch that, if followed to its logical conclusion, would require everybody to shut down whatever business operations that they have. And what impact would that have on the country? So while the talking point sounds good, and it's my wife, and I suppose, because I'm told that she's not from here, and she involved in, my wife has lived in Nevis for 31 years, has been a citizen of this country all of that time. She has lived here longer than she has lived anywhere. And to hear NRP attack her to say she's not from here, well, we know they don't like foreigners. So that has been their approach. But for somebody who has spent their adult life contributing to Nevis and the development of Nevis. Mr. Huey, you from here? You better careful with NRP. Once you see you say something that they don't like, be assured they're going to come and remind you where you're from. And I'm going to say it here because I want the press to do an assignment for me. Could you all find out for me where the leader of NRP was born? I will leave that there. Let me go on now. Aquatics Federation, I'm not sure who you're talking to. Mr. Huey? President. The president? Well, I've had a conversation and I've said to the president that we have already identified land in Nevis for them. So I'm not sure why he's saying that there's no traction. We have said we don't have the money to build the center, but we are prepared to give them the land. They have claimed to us that they are trying to raise money through various sources, and we said, fine. If you can raise the money to do the center, we will make land. In fact, we identified some land, I could tell you, close to the Mondo track. So I'm not understanding why they're saying there's no traction. They are the ones who need to come up with their part. We are willing to do our part. CBI projects that are stalled, yes, we have a few on Nevis, but no, the NIA currently does not have a plan. We have been looking to see federally, because we've heard the same things you've heard, in terms of what they will do, because remember, this is private property. And so the only thing that as the NIA we could do is compulsorily acquire that property with a view then to probably finding a new investor to try and finish it. But the difficulty that we have with a lot of these developments is that a lot of them are already sold. Some of them have multiple people, 40, 80, 100 people who don't own unit. Imagine you own a unit in a development that's not finished. We have one development in particular where this developer said in cabinet to us that he sold 110 units. And the only thing on the site is bush. The area is called Bush Hill. So maybe that's why he keep it in its natural state. The only thing on the site is bush. But he said he sold 110. So there has been that has been happening in the program where people have bought something, what they call it, on paper. So people come and they say, okay, I will buy unit A according to the architectural drawings. And then that's processed, they pay their money, and then they get their passport. But unit A is never actually built. Unit A doesn't actually exist on the ground. And then we had this phenomenon of underselling, where the government say you must sell for 400,000, and people were trying to play clever, and they were selling for 50 and 75 and 100. And the result of that appeared to be that they then did not have the money to actually do the construction. So it led to a lot of difficulties. And I believe something needs to be done because we have a number of white elephants all across the Federation. But I will wait to see what the federal government proposes from the AG's office in terms of legislation. Because even if we were to try to compulsorily acquire, you must have the money to do so. And then you must have somebody else, obviously, who can then develop this property for you. So that would be my answer there. Any other questions for me?
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Mr. Premier.
Good morning.
Jarvis Brown from Van Radio. Just a few questions. I know, you're short on time, so we try to keep it brief, of course. Any update on the Charleston Police Station, Mr. Premier? And as it relates to the NTA CEO, by the way, kudos to Ms. Andy Rivera. But what it is we would like to know is, as it relates to the former CEO, Mr. Devon Leiber, the question is, has he resigned, or has he retired, or even terminated, or has he even been switched to a different government department? Back on the SSZ authorization bill, what we would like to know is, in spite of all the rhetoric and the rumors and whatnot, concerning the fact that Nevis, of course, has been given has autonomy since 1983, what we would like to know is, why did we have to go to the Federal House of Parliament to pass that bill, as opposed to staying at the Nevis Island Assembly? In addition to that, just for clarification, sir, I know at the town hall meeting, of course, you didn't mention that Nevis had an investor, but then you mentioned on your August 25th, national address that we have had an investor and that, of course, he's a citizen of SKN. So is it that between the space of time between the July 10th town hall meeting...
July 5th.
July 5th, yes, up until your address, sir, between that space of time, is it that the investor was identified or, something along that line? The airport project, sir, quickly. We know that there were 5 companies that were selected as part of the bidding process.
Airport? Geothermal?
Yeah, geothermal, sorry.
Oh,
geothermal,
okay.
yes, sorry, geothermal. Yes. For that particular project, are there any further updates on that? Has, one company been identified other than the 5 companies? About the airport project, we know that the landowners, of course, they were supposed to be given money for their lands. Has that been worked out or sorted out for the landowners? And finally, Mr. Premier, as it relates to an update as to when, if they haven't been given those monies, are you at liberty to state when they will be given their monies? And thank you very much, sir, and we hope that your engagement goes well.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you, Mr. Brown. Update on the Charleston Police Station. I regret I do not have one. The last update that I did get was that they were practically completed. They were only doing some small finishing on the inside. And so we are hopeful that we will have the police station back in the hands of the police very shortly. The NTA CEO, you inquired about Mr. Devon Liebert. Mr. Liebert's contract as CEO was up. And we have asked Mr. Liebert to assist us with our air lift and with our cruise travel. So he has now taken up a position with NASPA, and he's in charge now of directing that aspect of NASPA's operations for us. And so he is putting his knowledge and his talents to work for us. You asked, why did the SSC go to the Federal House? It had to go to the Federal House, Mr. Brown, because there are aspects to these zones that the NIA does not have control over. So, for example, customs. If that zone is going to be a customs-free zone, not duty-free zone, the NIA does not have the legal and constitutional authority over customs, for example. If they're going to make special arrangements for immigration, we don't have control. So the federal government has to be involved because there's some aspects. Things like duty-free and concessions, that's for the NIA. Things like the land, and that's for the NIA. But there are aspects of it that the federal government would have to be involved in, and that is why it went there instead of just at the local level. You asked about the geothermal, and I could say that the bid evaluation, the first phase is completed. That was the technical phase. They're now doing the second phase, which is the financial evaluation, and I've not had any further update. I believe that the bid committee is still working on that. The airport project, I can confirm that landowners are actually being paid. The largest tract of land, I believe, was some 18 acres. That landowner has been paid, and we have been paying landowners as we go and closings as we go. So there has been no undue delay there, other than the initial delays which were associated with just the drawdown of the funds. I see something here about a proposal. I can't even read my own note now. The question that you asked after the SSZ, you said something about, the note I made was a proposal. Can you remember?
It was really about, like, at the town hall meeting.
Oh, yes. Excellent. Yes. So thanks. That's a great question. What I said at the town hall meeting is that we had a preliminary approach. So we were already aware that there was a developer, but we had no formal application. So it's not as if this developer just jumped out of the woods after the town hall. It was the formal application now came after this developer had been engaged with landowners, had secured certain commitments for land, and after the developer now had spoken to planning and spoken to other stakeholders and had come to a finalized submission. That is what changed. So when I came and spoke on the 25th, two things had happened. One, we had passed the law on the 11th, and two, we now had a formal application before the cabinet. So that is the difference. But it would not be accurate to say I wasn't aware of a developer, because recall at the town hall on July 5th, I said we have had a preliminary approach from a developer who's looking at the South Coast. We have asked them, however, to go and talk to the landowners to see if they can get land. So I am responding to the formal submission, because I think only when we get something formally in front of us are we in a position really to engage with the public, because now I could tell the public on such and such a date this happened, and this is a conversation that's ongoing. Anything further for me, members of the press?
Yeah, just one other question.
Sure.
Your last press conference, you spoke about the fair share and,
Yes.
and the update on that. Your statement seemed to have triggered some debate in the Federation as to whether or not Nevis is truly a part of the process. There are some who are even suggesting that the Prime Minister is being dismissive of Nevis and is not really engaging Nevis as it truly should. Could you speak to that, whether or not Nevis is really integrally involved in the process with the World Bank as it relates to fair share? Where are we now, and when can we anticipate some resolution on this?
Thank you, Mr. Huey. The issue has not been as current as I would like it to be, because frankly, we have all been overtaken by other matters. But I don't know whether or not it's dismissive or otherwise. What I will say is what I said then, that Nevis was not a part of the approach to the World Bank. And frankly, and I've said so, and I stand on that, I did not believe that any World Bank involvement was necessary. We can count. And I said it before, that any sixth form student, accountant, could look at the money that's coming in from CBI, say what are the expenses, take away the expenses, and then say this is what is left. Can we divide what is left on a population basis between St. Kitts and Nevis? In fact, if you go way back to the formation of Unity and the Charleston Accord, that was the formula that was put into the Charleston Accord. And I can tell you that that is one of the proposals, the recommendations that has come from the World Bank. So after all that time and all that effort, we come back to what a sixth form student could have done. So this is no disrespect to the World Bank. They are, of course, an international organization of good repute. But I just felt that there was, since the day of Unity and ongoing, a reluctance. I mean, frankly, before Unity, a certain reluctance to engage with this issue. Because it seems to me that there's some who feel, well, boy, as the former Prime Minister, Dr. Harris, said, what Nevis want? Them don't get enough. What them want? Every dollar we send up there is $1 less for St. Kitts. Prime Minister of the country said that. So we were not involved with the World Bank engagement. Dr. Drew, in his wisdom, decided he would engage the World Bank. And I am not aware that the World Bank had held any meetings with us prior. So that is why I have said to the public that when Dr. Drew shared the World Bank report with me, I did not feel that it was appropriate, Mr. Huey, for me then to take that report and give it out, because it's not my report. I didn't commission it. The NIA was not involved with it. It is a federal government report that was commissioned by the Prime Minister's office and was delivered to his office. I can tell you that my cabinet has met. We have deliberated. Our technical people have completed their analysis, and so it is only for us now to meet at the national level to determine what we're going to do about the fair share going forward. But that is the case. What would have motivated the PM or not motivated him? You'd have to ask him that. I would not know that. Right? I would not know that. I don't know that he intended to be dismissive. I don't know if what he did was dismissive. I can only speak to what is. And the reality is that Nevis was not involved in that whole World Bank report scenario. If there's nothing else firm for me, any other questions? Okay.
Mr. Premier, quickly, just one quick question. As it relates to the airport project, any timeline or date for any groundbreaking ceremony on that? Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'm always loath to make predictions, but I was hoping that we could have started on Independence Day, September 19th, to have a groundbreaking on that day, because I think that would have been a good day. But the technical people are telling me that we will not be ready for that date. So they have said October 1. That is the date that they've given me that they're working towards. Now, I don't want the press to put out a headline saying that October 1 we're going to start, because things may change. But that is the last update that they gave me, is that they think that October 1st could be a logical date for us to start. So we will see, but I will keep the press updated. But I can say that things are proceeding very nicely at the moment The lands are being purchased, and I believe we already have heavy equipment over there doing some cutting of some lines and the like, so that they're doing some soil testing and getting ready. Okay? Thank you very much. Members of the press, I apologize again for my brevity today, but I have another commitment. Thank you for your understanding. I will make sure that I spend an extra hour on the next occasion. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Hewlett, Mr. Huey, and Mr. Brown. Thank you, Stuart. And thank you, of course, Pierce. I really appreciate it. Take care and have a nice day.